So I was inspired by online movements, a lot of them through Reddit. You might recognize some of them. Some of these have actually become very mainstream, part of the default subreddits on Reddit. But I was on Futurology back in 2012 when there were only a few thousand members. And it really inspired me to make a change in the world and to do it with advancing technology. At that same time, I actually, for the first time in my life, went overseas and I visited Europe. And I was really impressed by the high technology. It sounds kind of weird, you think of Europe as being old, but they have a fantastic transport system in Europe, and their internet is better than ours in many cases. But also in addition to that, it's a hyper-connected society in many places. So if you look at Paris, which I visited, most photos show order. They show buildings in regular patterns, but in reality, most of it was like this. All over the place, crazy, but it was fantastic because there were so many people who were here. And that's what it's all about. Humans are valuable. And when you join them together, they become even more valuable, in my opinion. So you see there's a great picture of Paris, and you see the Eiffel Tower there. Now, the Eiffel Tower actually inspired me a lot. I'm walking through Paris, and I look up at the Eiffel Tower, and I see something really special. Not only is this a gigantic antenna that was erected during the World Fair, and it managed to stay up all this time, but if you look at the first level on the Eiffel Tower, you'll notice 72 mathematicians, engineers, and physicists' names written up there. And you might recognize some of them. These are ones that I dealt with a lot as a physics grad and a mathematics grad. This was a monument to science and human advancement. And that was amazing. And that really inspired me to change what the world was like, to make a different Australia or a different world. So I spent quite some time on a fast train driving through France and on towards Switzerland, and then later on to Germany, writing up the Science Party policy, and it ended up being a bit over 10,000 words once I had done with it. So I brought it back to Australia, but it was based on some of the core aims of futurists, and this represents some of you here tonight. So I think futurists want to advance technology. They want a rational approach to decision making. They want to apply technology to solve huge problems. They want to jump on ideas early. You know, as they're just starting up, they want more effort put into these big game-changing ideas. They want to make good use of resources. We don't want to destroy our planet. We want to put money behind obvious winners like education and science research. And we want to make sure that people aren't wasted. So we want to make sure that people don't fall off the edge of society. And you see that coming up a lot in the futurist forums, a lot of stuff about basic income. That comes down to our humanity aspect of the futurist movement. In addition to that, there's transhumanism, which is an obvious theme throughout the futurist thought. Also elements of utopian unlimited resource economy, but I see that as a little bit off into the future, maybe 2200 or so, you know, Star Trek time, when we can do 3D atomic printing. That'll be amazing, but probably not just now. So, who are we? And I'm going to make a really broad generalization here. And I think it's an important one to make. So we're relatively wealthy, young, and we're in a city. And that's not what most of the world is. When you aren't one of all of those three things, you cut out a lot of all of the population. Sorry. So I think you can't stop privilege until you acknowledge it exists. We have to bring people along for the ride, and we need to involve everyone in the process. And communicating that idea is key. So effectively communicating the dream means messaging that's on point. And when I started the Science Party, it was called the Future Party, and we worked under that name for about 3 years. And I liked it a lot, and a lot of people liked it a lot. But we found that it was hard to communicate our message. We were going to the polls in North Sydney and we were saying to people, more money for science, more money for education. And people were like, yeah, I love it. And we found that when we had the chance to communicate the idea, we had 3 times as many votes in those polling places. But when we didn't, when we were relying just on the